I go. You know with me and so. Oh, it's my little ego. I honestly hope that you have enjoyed the music so far. Thank you so much for staying tuned and enjoying the good music with me. I had you in mind as I was selecting these songs, and I'm so excited. I'm pretty sure you're having a wonderful time. Thank you so much, my dear Francisca from the villa very soon, even though she's in Guarimpa right now. He says, Ugonna best on the beat. I'm enjoying the vibe. Yes, Nedalo, thank you so much. You're most welcome. All right, it is a great, beautiful day. Yesterday, I had to take my dogs to the vet because one of them, was so every time I would touch him by his hip, like he would wince and he would cry. So I had to take him to the vet, and then I told them, what, just shave their hair, just take away their hair. And if you see them right now, honestly, they look like ferrets. They look like ferrets. But you know what? Monkey no fine, but mama like them. I like them like that. Okay, when I got home, everyone was screaming, "Oh my God, they look ugly!" I'm like, "What? How can you say that? They look beautiful. They look adorable." Okay, my dogs look amazing, and it doesn't matter that I've shaved. That have taken off their fur, it doesn't matter. They're still beautiful dogs. Anyway, today is Thursday. It is the 9th of July. Can you see how quickly the months or the days are just flying by? Again, that's what happens with time. And of course, today is today is Thursday. Today is Throwback Thursday, and we are here to talk, and of course listen to some great music. This Throwback Thursday, so they don't make music like this anymore. Music like this doesn't happen anymore. But I do appreciate the good music that is being made today. But I just feel like there's something that is missing in the source of the new music that used to be in the old music, and that's why today is so important. Anyways, today is one of those days where we talk, and we're about to dive into our conversation for today. So, of course, get your pen and paper. Class is officially in session. One of the most painful realizations in life isn't that somebody dislikes you. Okay? One of the most painful realizations isn't that somebody just wasn't really your friend or wasn't just really there for you. It is discovering that someone only valued you for what you could do for them. And we've seen this many times where, someone only values you for what you have or what you can do for them. So, for example, maybe they only called when they needed money. Maybe they only called when they were down and they needed advice. Maybe they called when they needed a favor, or, they think you're a connected person and you can connect them to someone, or just some emotional support, okay? And maybe the moment that you needed them, they just disappeared. Now, I believe that most of us have experienced that feeling at some point, okay? The feeling of asking, is it that these people ever really cared about me, or did they just need me? So today's conversation is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about understanding the difference between healthy interdependence and unhealthy exploitation. Because relationships are meant to enrich us. They're not meant to slowly bankrupt us. So today, we're going to talk about the feeling of being used. Okay, have you heard of that? Has anyone ever said to you, you're being used? Or has anyone ever told you, I think you are using me? Well, this conversation is for you, okay? Today, we're talking about being used. What is it to be used? Or what is it to use someone? To just use someone for what they have. And that's what our conversation is today. All right, let's go on a break. And when we come back, there's so much more on The Midday Show. Only family we wear ya because we wear ya. Also cause one ya because we wear ya. Only family we wear ya because we wear ya. Also cause one ya because we wear ya. Say. That is Ekwe by the woman, the myth, the legend, the late Onyeka Onwenu. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Today is Throwback Thursday. So, of course, today is one of those days where we talk and we talk and we talk. Today, we're talking about being used, and it is a very uncomfortable conversation because by the end of this conversation, some of us are going to realize that, okay, indeed, we have been used and we have been unfairly used, and maybe it might cause us to uh, evaluate many of our relationships. And there are some of us who might listen to this conversation and say, you know what, I feel like I have been the user in many of my relationships. And I do hope that it makes you confront yourself and perhaps see the errors in your ways and how you can be a better person in any relationship that you're in, whether it is romantic, whether it's platonic, whether it's within your family. That is the point of this conversation. Now, there are a few feelings that hurt more than when you realize that you weren't exactly valued. There are very few feelings that hurt more than that. When you feel like, you know what, I was very useful. I gave my time. I showed up. I listened to this person. I sacrificed. I helped. I loved. I truly, truly loved. And then one day you just realize that the only reason this relationship, this friendship, this courtship, whatever this is, the only reason this ship worked out was because I was the one giving. I was the one who was given my time. I was the one who was being useful. I was the one who showed up. I was the one who listened. So if you take me out of this equation, or if you take out half of what I've done in this equation, perhaps this friendship or this relationship will not exist. Okay? Because you realize that the call stopped when you weren't that when you stopped helping. The affections that you thought you had from this person disappeared when you said no. So it raises a very painful question that most of us probably need to ask ourselves, and that is, have you ever, or have I ever been loved, or have I just been used? Okay? So what does it mean to be used? Now, being used means someone who consistently values what it is that you provide or what you can do for them more than who you are. It's very simple, okay? Being used means when someone consistently values what it is that you provide or what it is that you can do for them more than who you are. Okay, so for example, these people, they love or they appreciate things like your money. Okay, they love your influence. They value your time, your generosity. You're such a great person when it comes to emotional support. You support people so well. Your connections, you're such a connected person. All you need to do is talk to Ugonna and she connects you to this person and all your problems are solved. Okay, so being used means that these people or a person consistently values what you have or what it is that you can do, or values your capabilities or your capacity over who you are. So they appreciate external things like your money, your influence, your time, the fact that you're very generous, that your hands are open, the fact that you're very connected and you're very free with those connections, the fact that you're a generous person, you're always there for them, you are that person that when they need help, when they need advice, it's you that they run to. So it first happens, because one of the first things users do is that they identify where it is that you are great. So they identify what are the great things about you. Okay, she has money. That's a great thing. Number one. She has influence. That's another great thing. She has time. She's the kind of person who can sacrifice her time, or he's the kind of person who can sacrifice his time for me, for my benefit. What a wonderful person. They identify great things about you, like the fact that you're connected and you are a generous person. And once they have identified it, then they latch onto it. They latch into it and say, okay, this is what I found out about this person. This is what I love about Francisca. And this is what I'm going to latch onto. And when this happens, usually they don't care about anything else. Nothing else about you is valuable to them. So not your weaknesses, okay? They don't latch into the fact that, sometimes you may have some days where you might act out of character. They don't care too much about your down times because that is not what has attracted them, or that is not what they primarily seek from you. That's why, when you're down, they don't really tend to you, because what they truly want or what they truly value are the things that make you great, not the other parts that make you human, not the weaknesses that make you human, not the down times that every other person has been through, but the parts of you that make you great. So who they love, for example, is, they love CEO Francisca Bamidele. That's who they love, but not really Francisca. Okay? They love CEO Francisca, not Francisca. So many times, people who have been through this realize that the day that title of CEO falls, that crown falls away, many times those people are nowhere to be found. All right? So that's what it means to be used. All right, let's go on a break. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. I wanna give you some good, good loving. Oh, 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 I wanna give you some good, good loving. FM Abuja, thank you so much for being part of today's show. Today we're talking about what it is to be used, okay? And I gave a definition for what it is to be used, and that means when someone consistently values what you provide, or what you can do for them over or more than who you are. The first thing we're going to talk about today is that not every relationship is equal. Not every relationship is equal, and that is okay. So, for example, not every friendship will be equally balanced. And I say this because we make friends with all kinds of people. Okay, people make friends with all kinds of people. So people make friends with people who have less than they have. People make friends with people who have more. People make friends with people who come from different backgrounds, different ways of being raised, different seasons as well. So inequality in a traditional sense is often expected in many relationships. Okay, even sometimes within our parents, some of our parents come from a bigger home than one. Maybe our dads come from a bigger homes than our moms. So some of us makes friends. We make friends in school, and sometimes people come from different backgrounds. So not every relationship is equal, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there are some seasons where one person is naturally required to receive more support. For example, if a friend is grieving, you can't expect that friend to give their best or be at their best at that point. Okay, if you have a partner who is recovering from an illness, if you have somebody who is between jobs and they're trying to find their feet, okay, people go through life in seasons, and we also make friends from different backgrounds, different weights, and different lengths. So that is not being used. So I want to make a clear distinction. So don't say, okay, I have a friend who I give more to, or who gives more to me. Does that mean that I'm using that person, or that person is being used? No, 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 no. That is not being used. That is life. Okay. We make friends with people from all backgrounds, and life is not always balanced. Some people might have more, some people might have less, some people come from different backgrounds, and we have different relationships with different people. And that is not being used. That is simply life. What is the problem is what we call unequal giving. Now, the problem isn't exactly all about unequal giving. Okay, the problem is more about what we would call a permanent one-sidedness, if that makes any sense. One-sidedness, rather. A permanent one-sidedness. Okay, the problem isn't exactly, unequal giving. The problem is permanent one-sidedness. Okay, where one person is always pouring and the other person is always collecting. Okay, because when that happens, usually resentment follows. So the problem isn't when there is an imbalance where one person seems to be giving more than the other person. And again, even when we weigh giving, sometimes we like to weigh it based on material things, but sometimes somebody might be given more materially, Another person could be giving more or making up for it emotionally. Again, not every relationship is equal, and there's no problem with that. The only problem is when there is a permanent one-sidedness, where one person is always, and the key word here is always, when one person is always pouring and the other person is always collecting. Okay, so the problem that begins when there is an imbalance is when it becomes permanent and when it only flows in one direction. So you have James and John who are friends, and all the goodness always and only flows towards James and never towards John. That is when there is a problem. Not that maybe many times it flows towards James more than John. Sometimes, things happen. Their life isn't always black and white. People face different seasons, so we can't use that as a yardstick. But when there is a permanent one-sidedness, then there is a problem. There's a problem within that relationship, within that friendship, or whatever situation that is. Okay? Now, another point here is that before we begin to vilify people and say, oh, this person is bad or this person is good, let's make something clear. Some people don't even realize that they're using others. And it sounds crazy, but let me explain. Some people do not even realize that they're using others. You see, not everyone who uses a person is what you would call a manipulative person. Okay? Because a person who is manipulative is a person who, from the get-go, their first mission, they sat down and said, okay, I can see that this person, Ada, is a wonderful person. I can see that she has resources. She has this, she has that. So I am going to get into her circle and try to take from her. Okay, now there are people like that, but not everyone is like that. Some people who are users are not users because they are instinctively manipulative. It's not like they plan to be manipulative. Many times it's because it is just how they have been raised. Some people simply have just become accustomed to always receiving. These are people who their entire lives, all they have been taught is to take, take, take. These are people who, as kids, they were never taught to learn how to ask things like, how are you? And not the how are you that is so short and so succinct. Just how are you? Oh, fine. Like, really, how are you? What do you need? Can I help? There are people who were not raised to be of service to others. Okay, it is how they were raised, and this is why parents must be so observant and about this point and actively guide their children. From an early age, children should be taught not only how to receive help and kindness, but also how to give, how to appreciate, how to reciprocate. There are some kids who are not taught that, mostly because maybe their parents are not like that. They don't see their parents giving out. All they see is, I receive, I receive, I receive. There are people who have never been taught to check on how other people are doing. So it is their natural nature to take. So for them, in their mind, their mindset believes that, I'm just a human being walking around waiting for blessings from God or from whomever. They are not taught to sow into other people. They are not taught to reciprocate. Okay, so that's why it's important, that parents are very intentional when raising their kids, especially when it comes to reciprocation. Because if you don't, what happens is that you are raising a generation of users, people who take, and never give back. So when you raise your children to be kind, to know how to give help, not just to receive help, when they grow up with that understanding, they understand that relationships involve mutual care and effort. And then they are more likely to become adults who value others beyond what they can gain from them. Okay, so parents must teach their kids gratitude. Okay, and it's not gratitude because everything is full. You must also teach your kids to be grateful for the little things that they have. Because some people only think gratitude happens when everything is working out fine, when everything is perfect. No, you must teach your kids about gratitude. First of all, be grateful that you're alive. Be grateful for the little that you have, because what you have, someone else does not have. Okay, you must teach your kids about empathy. Your kids must know what it's like to care about the next person. Your life cannot just be me, or the other people who benefit you. Because some people might, okay, I'm teaching my kids to love other people, but the only people you're teaching them to love are people who can benefit them. You're teaching them how to love mommy. Of course they have to love mommy. Mommy provides for them. Of course they have to love daddy. Daddy provides for them. Of course they have to love their siblings. They have someone to interact with. But what about people outside? You must teach your kids the importance of giving back, because it helps prevent a mindset where taking becomes the norm. Okay? And it ensures that they can also develop healthy, balanced relationships with people that they meet outside of the home. So I say this to say, because many times selfishness is not intentional. There are many people who are selfish and it's not exactly intentional. It's not like they sit down and say, oh, I'm just going to be this selfish person who doesn't care about anyone else. Many times it is unconscious, because the parents have unconsciously or consciously raised them to not really care about anyone else. Some people do it without even realizing. And it takes time and growth and maybe experiences with other people who are able to call them out on that bad behavior, and then they can change. But this can be tackled at a very fragile age, which is the best time to groom anyone, okay, is at that time. So intent is important, okay, but impact also matters. All right, let's go on a break. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned and being part of today's show. And today we've been talking about being used. Thank you so much for staying with the conversation. So now we're moving on to our next point. Now, there is a very pressing question and a very hard question that perhaps we need to ask. And that is, why do people allow themselves to be used? Because unfortunately, you cannot be used without your permission. Okay, so why do people allow themselves to be used? Now, it's a very hard question, because there are many reasons people allow themselves to be used. And one of them could be rejection. Okay, people allow themselves to be used because many times they are so afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of conflict. They're afraid of rocking the table. They are afraid of being lonely. Sometimes some people think, if I don't say yes, if I don't agree, then that means everyone will leave me. Some people are very afraid of disappointing others. They hate the possibility of watching someone shake their heads in disappointment and say, oh, they see disappointment as disapproval of who they are. For others, it is a fear that runs deeper than what is current in the present moment. Okay, so I mean that sometimes these things are rooted in earlier experiences that have grown into insecurity. Some people grow up feeling very insecure. Some people grow up feeling like they weren't good enough. Maybe they were teased in secondary school or high school or even university. Some people thought, okay, I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not tall enough. I wear glasses. People tease me. So they grow up feeling quite insecure. Maybe they're being teased about their appearance or constantly feel like they don't fit in. So over time, they have learned to associate acceptance with being agreeable. So what they do is that they try to make themselves become the most agreeable person in the room. So they become that person that never says no. So let's use high school for example. Everyone teases you, everyone says no one talks to you. Then all of a sudden, somebody popular maybe says to ask you for let's say a piece of paper or your pen, and you give it to them, and they're like, oh, nice, and maybe they're nice to you for that day. What now happens to you is that you now think that, okay, if I become very agreeable, then that means more people will like me. And we sometimes think, okay, the buck stops there, it stops in high school. But many times it's something that becomes ingrained into your fiber, that as you grow older, it just follows you all through your life. Okay, you become the person who never says no. You become the person who always needs to keep the peace. So even sometimes when something is annoying you, when you're frustrated, when you want to tell somebody off and tell someone, don't do this to me again, or don't say this anymore, you think of, oh, I don't want to be unagreeable. I want to still be liked. I don't want people to look at me funny. So I'm going to keep the peace. You now become the person who always has to adjust, the one who always has to accommodate, the one who avoids rocking the boat. Because somewhere along the way, you have internalized this belief that if I am easy to be around, then it means that people will stay with me. If I don't cause any problems, if I always say yes to everything, then I will never be rejected. If I continue to give and give and give, then one day I will be valued, or whatever value I have will continue. And before you know it, it has turned into this pattern of overgiving. Okay. And it's not really out of pure generosity, because sometimes people think, oh, I'm just a very generous person. Maybe you are, but there could be another underlying reason why you are such an overgiver. And it might not be pure generosity. It could be that you have a deep desire to be accepted. And while, it might bring in some temporary approval, because, it does have its perks sometimes, at the end of the day, it comes at a cost of resentment at the end of the day, a cost of self-respect, and your emotional well-being being depleted over time. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes we allow ourselves to be used. Sometimes it's because many of us are we really want the applause. I don't know how to put it. There are many people who crave an applause. Okay? They want people to sing about them. Sometimes we just want people to like us because we think we have more social capital when everybody likes us. Okay? So sometimes it's because we are too naive. Okay? Some of us, or some people, grew up in very sheltered homes. Okay, and that's another thing. Some people grew up in very sheltered homes where you weren't really taught about, I don't want to say the streets, but yeah, the streets. Everyone around, and it is a blessing of its kind, because again, you grew up to have such a pure heart, but you're living in a very dangerous world. So you need a bit of both. While you need to maintain a heart that is pure, you also need a bit of sense to navigate the world. So there are many reasons people allow themselves to be used, whether it's due to insecurity, whether it's due to because they lived in they come from a very sheltered place, whether it's because they are addicted to people, to awards and people singing their praises. There are many reasons where people allow themselves to be used. And that's why this conversation is important, so that we can begin to identify where it is that we fall in. And that way we can begin to adjust and correct. Okay? Now, it's also important to note that human beings have a natural instinct to use. Okay? Human beings have a natural instinct to use. Now, this sounds very uncomfortable, but in many ways, we all use people. We use, teachers for their knowledge. We use doctors for, to treat us, to heal us, friends for companionship. The reason you have friends is because you need them. Everybody comes with a certain level of usefulness. Okay? Anyone who is not useful to you doesn't really have a place in your life. It is natural human behavior. Okay? We need family for support. We have children for our legacies, again, for support. So when we think about it, humanity uses humans. It is how the world exists. Okay? Human relationships naturally involve receiving from another. Everyone who is attached to you is using you in some way. So there's nothing really wrong with being used in that way. Okay? And I say this to say that anytime you present yourself as someone or something to be used, you will be used. Because humans have a natural instinct to use. Humans will often take advantage of the vulnerability that is placed in front of them. And this has nothing to do with how good they are. Good people too would use you if you present yourself as a person who can allow themselves to be used. They would do it sometimes consciously, sometimes without them even realizing that they're using you. Someone gives you, that you never complain that you're the only one who's given, the other person might never notice. So when you consistently make yourself available without any limits, you have taught people around you that you have no limits, and therefore you can be used. So sometimes you're not being used because the people are bad. You're being used because you have shown that you have no limits. You will always say yes. Why do I have to go somewhere else and negotiate when I know that there's a definite yes right in front of me? Okay? So when you present yourself that way, other people begin to see your generosity as something to be expected. Oh, right, put her down for that. Oh, she definitely will say yes. You know, and at some point they begin to not really appreciate it as they should, because now it is readily available every single time. It almost feels like there's no real value to it anymore. And before you know it, that expectation that is maybe still an expectation can quietly turn into entitlement. It now becomes what they expect from you every single day. That the day that you maybe have the courage to say no, it becomes, that's weird. I didn't expect that. Because you've always been available. You've always shown people that if they make a request, you're always going to say yes, no matter what it is that it costs you. So the question isn't whether we benefit from people, okay, because we are. I guess the question is whether we reduce them to just their usefulness. Are you the person who only wants people if they are completely useful to you? Do we value them when they have something, do we value them only when they have something to offer? Or do we value people simply because they are people? So to use a person's gift is not a bad thing. It is perfectly normal. Okay, but using the person is where there is a big problem. Okay, so using a person's gifts, what they have to offer, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's when you see them as nothing other than a tool for your advancement, as a tool for the things that you want. That is when there becomes a big problem. All right, we're going to the news at 3. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation as we go on the show. All right, like I said, by the end of this conversation, I hope that you're able to evaluate the relationships, analyze and evaluate the relationships you have, but most importantly, also look into yourself. Are you a person who uses other people? Okay. Now, the last thing we talked about is how human beings have a natural instinct to use. And I said it might sound very uncomfortable, but in many ways, we all use people. Okay. And if you present yourself as someone or something to be used, you will be used. Okay. Many times human beings will take advantage of the vulnerability that they see right in front of them. Many times consciously, sometimes not even without even realizing what they're doing. Okay. But when you consistently make yourself available without any limits, people will begin to see your generosity as something to be expected. In fact, they don't see it as generosity anymore. They see it as, it's just your way. So they expect it every single time. Now, I say this to say because there is something called the people-pleasing trap. Okay? The people-pleasing trap. Now, the thing about being a people pleaser, right, is that you mainly confuse being loved with being useful, or being useful with being loved. So a people pleaser is a person who thinks that, if I keep giving, maybe they will love me more. If I keep giving, maybe I am a good person and I am worthy of their love. So people pleasers struggle to say no. People pleasers will overextend themselves. They make promises upon promises upon promises. They accommodate so much. They carry everyone's burdens. And again, there's some nobility to caring for others. I mean, we should care for others. That's what this show has always been about. We talk about how we should be better people, how we should help people, but there is always a limit. Okay? People pleasers want to do all of this because they believe that doing it will make people love them more. Okay? But one thing I've realized is that loving people more doesn't make them love you more. I know it sounds crazy. Loving people more doesn't make them love you more. One thing I've realized is that people love you or they don't. People either love you. Sometimes you ask somebody, why do you love this person? Well, I don't know. It's just how he is. It's just how she is. Love doesn't have that many explanations. There are many things people love about people. Okay, I can tell Microwave 3 things that I love about him, but it's not the same as why I love him. Okay, maybe because he's very nice. That's a nice thing to love about him. But when he's not so nice, do I still love him? Okay. So people either love you or they don't. In fact, people can still love you more, and I use love you more with air quotes by, they will adore you externally. Okay. They might love you more by singing your praises. Francisca, come get so. Money, JJ, Mona, Nala, Francisca, come get so. They can sing your praises. Okay. But that isn't real love. They can tell everybody how amazing you are. Once you do something for them, say, there's nobody like you in my life. They tell you all kinds of amazing things. And it sounds like love, but it's not really love. Because real love is practiced in sacrifice. Real love is when they also have to do for you. Real love is when you are down and they stick by you. Okay? They're given to you as well. True love is not when it's just you. They're given to you as well. When they're down, they stick by you. And I don't mean stick by you by just staying by your side, because that's another thing we need to be watchful of. Some people will stay by you is just so that they can hear your woes, so they can hear you cry, hear you complain. And they do absolutely nothing to help you. They're just there to sit down and hear. Just listen to you talk. Even a prayer, they won't even help you pray. They'll say, "Oh, I'll pray for you." They won't pray for you. Sometimes they stick by you to use it as gossip. Do you know that she doesn't have money again? Do you know that she doesn't have this anymore? Do you know that this happened, things have changed? They're telling everybody all the things that's happening with you, and they're not helping. So when I say stick by you, I mean that they are sticking by you by staying by you and helping you within their capacities. Sometimes your people might not have the solutions to your problem, but they can offer you other kinds of help. Okay, reassurance, prayers, the little they can do for you, they will do for you. The ones within their capacity, I can't solve this 10 million naira problem, but please, here is 100,000. Make sure you eat today. Do you understand what I mean? Because sticking by you might be sticking beside you to hear everything that's bad about you. And in their minds, like, it's finally her turn. It's finally her turn to suffer. When she was bawling, she did not know Abi. It's very true, okay? So the people-pleasing trap will trap you with such people, okay? You cannot love people into loving you. Love many times doesn't need so many reasons. That's one thing that I have realized, okay? Because when you fall for the pleasing people trap, don't think you will never become resentful, because resentment is waiting for you on the other side. Many times people are people pleasers and inside they are unhappy. You're busy pleasing other people, but inside you are displeased because deep down you're receiving nothing. You are given everything, but you get absolutely nothing in return. And it's a very painful place to be in. Really, really painful. Nobody ever wants to go there. Okay? Now, being kind is very different from having no boundaries. That's one problem people have. It's okay, so does that mean I shouldn't help? Absolutely not. Okay? Or I keep saying one of the things that we always talk about on the show is how we can be better people. We should be kind. We should be giving. Okay? But there has to be a place where we draw a line and say, these are my boundaries. Kindness is a good thing. Okay? Kindness says, I want to help. I'd love to help. But a boundary will say, this is how much I can help. Or sometimes I cannot help at this time. These two are not enemies. Being kind and having a boundary are not enemies. Kindness itself is a strength. It takes strength to be kind. Okay? But kindness that comes without any boundaries will lead you to neglect yourself. Okay? And you can be generous without allowing yourself to be exploited. You must remember that first, you must take care of yourself to be able to take care of other people. Okay? They say you cannot pour from an empty cup, and it's true. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You are also a human being, and you have needs to be met too. So don't live your life as a martyr. Don't live your life as a person who sacrifices everything for everybody and gets absolutely nothing in return. I want you to say this after me. I have needs too. Okay? Say it louder. I have needs too. Yes, you have needs too. Okay? A healthy people know that protecting yourself allows you to keep loving others without you becoming bitter, because that's what will happen. You're busy pleasing everybody, and inside you are dying inside. You are dying inside. You are displeased inside. Meanwhile, everyone around you is being pleased. Sometimes it sounds noble, but that's not it. Okay? There is no actual reward for that. And many people begin to see that much later, especially when resentment has set in. Now, another point here is that love should not feel like constant depletion. Love should not feel like constant depletion. You see, every relationship requires a bit of sacrifice, okay? We say that inconvenience is the price we pay for community. Okay, so that means that every relationship requires a bit of sacrifice. One day you're going to have to give. Sometimes you're going to do things even when you're upset, even when you're tired. It is part of what we do to maintain the society or the communities that we have. But sacrifice should never become your permanent identity, which is what we run the risk of when we are people pleasers. You are not you're not Jesus. Okay, so whether it is a friendship, whether it is a family relationship, whether it is romance, there are questions you need to ask yourself. And why am I always the one who is calling? Am I always the one who is calling? Okay, I need to ask yourself this question: am I always the one who is calling? And if the answer is yes, okay, so you need to ask yourself very important questions. If the answer to that question is yes, then is it because this person doesn't have a phone? Okay, is it because this person lives in a war-torn country? Is it because this person is a toddler? With toddlers, you can't expect them to call you. You're the one to call their mummies and say, "Oh, give the phone to my niece. Let me speak to my niece." That's different. So find out why you're always the one who's calling. Is it because the person does not have a phone? Is it because the person, lives in a place with no internet? They have to go on top of a mountain to be able to reach you. Why are you the one who is always initiating conversation? Okay? Am I the one always apologizing? Why? If the answer is yes, then why? Are you in this friendship? Are you the one who always has to apologize? Why? If the answer is yes, then why? Is it because I am always wrong? Ask yourself this question, because maybe you are always wrong. And if you're the one who is always looking for trouble, then yes. But if it's not, then there's a bigger problem. Is it because I'm always wrong? Am I the villain in this relationship? Do I need therapy? It's a very important question. Do I need therapy? Maybe that's it. Maybe I need therapy. Okay, but if that's not the case, then that means it's a bigger problem. Love should not feel like constant depletion. Why am I the one who is always paying? Every time we go out, it's always me who has to pay. Why? Is it because everyone around me is destitute? Am I surrounded by people who are destitute? Is there nobody around me who is doing well enough to pick up the bill sometimes? Or have I taught them the bad habit that it must be me to pay? Because some of you have taught your friends that bad habit. Leave it all to Ugonna, she'll pay. Some of you have taught your friends that bad habit. It might not have been your fault, but over time you have taught them to, put their purses behind them when they go out with you. Okay? Why am I the one always making sacrifices? Does the other person have absolutely nothing to offer? Am I surrounded by people who have nothing to offer? It is only me who must offer myself and my only son on the altar of sacrifice. You need to ask yourself these questions. Being needed is a very noble feeling. It's good when people need you. It's a nice feeling. It makes you feel important. I don't blame you for that. But being loved is better. Being given to is good. Okay? Healthy relationships involve mutual care. So if every interaction you have is draining you, is financially burdening you, leaving you exhausted, sometimes you don't feel like you're ever supported by these people, then it is worth asking these difficult questions. And I say this because there are people who love you for what you can provide, not who you are. There's who you are, and there's who you are, and there's what you have. So you might be Francisca, you might be Bamidele, you might be Frank. That is just one person. But then there is Frank, who is a pilot. Okay, there is Francisca, who is a CEO. So people like that title. People like what you can do. Sometimes people love what you can do more than who you are, and that is what it is to be used. And it is a very hard truth. People are attracted to your success. People love your influence. They're attracted to the fact that you're generous. They love your money. They love your platform. They love that you have this insane ability to solve problems. They love all of that. They love all of that rather than you. It is a great advantage to have a great person as a friend. Imagine if the president was your friend, was your uncle, for example. You don't even need to benefit from the president directly. You would benefit from people just being, just have a card. Sometimes in Nigeria we're crazy. We see people who print cards, friend of the son of the president, okay? And people will flock towards you. So having a person who is successful, has influence, is a great thing for anybody. It's such an advantage to have a great person as a friend. It gives you access. But if you removed half of those things, would they still choose you? If tomorrow you were not as successful, if tomorrow you lost your influence, if tomorrow you got sick, if tomorrow your money disappeared, would these people still come to you? A simple way to test this is to stop giving for a while and see what happens. Okay? Stop giving for a while. Especially for those of you who are always paying. One day, go out with your friends, okay? Have a certain amount carry cash with you, okay? Have a certain amount of money you want to spend that day. So let's say I'm only going to eat maybe 25,000 naira worth. Carry like 30,000 naira cash. Leave early. In the middle of everything, sorry, I have to go. Say, this should cover my bill. Drop your money off and leave. Because the minute you begin to say no, it reveals the truth about other people. No is a very revealing word in any relationship. When you stop giving, who are the people who stay? Who are the people who understand? And it's not just that they understand, but they still revere you. Some people will say they understand and they stop talking to you. Some people will say they understand, but they stop calling you boss. Maybe before all they called you was boss. Boss. Now is Ebuka straight. No one is calling you boss no more. Okay? Sometimes people pretend they understand, but you will see it through certain subtle actions. Who becomes angry? Who completely disappears? People who value you will be disappointed when you say no, because when you say no, people would be disappointed. It's natural. But they will still respect you. People who love you, who truly value you, they might be disappointed, but they will still respect you. People who are only benefiting from you, they will become angry, distant, and might even disappear altogether. So saying no, or rather no, is a mirror. Sometimes no will show you and help you end bad relationships. Okay? No will never end a good relationship. It can only expose the unhealthy ones. All right, let's go on a break. When we come back, it's going to be the last part of the show, and I'll be signing out back then. Okay? Don't go away. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. It is a very sensitive conversation because not many of us are willing to confront the fact that maybe we've used others. Some of us may be a bit too shy to admit that we have been used over and over and over again. And that's what this conversation is all about, so that we can truly get to know where it is our strengths and our weaknesses lie. All right, I said during the break that this is the last stretch of the conversation, and I've got a few points that I'd like to buttress before we go. My first point is this: we must not let being used stop us from being good. You see, many times when we are hurt, when somebody hurts us, when someone betrays us, we make this pact, or we have this agreement where we say we're never going to be hurt again, especially in the same way. And we do that by insisting that sometimes we're never going to do the things that we used to do before. We're never going to be as great as we used to before. We're not going to be as generous. We're not going to be as giving or as caring. But if we become hardened people because someone has taken advantage of us, what that means is that we have allowed the pain or the embarrassment that comes from being used to shape our character negatively. You see, being good is a noble title. It's a good thing to be good. In as much as good people are usually taken advantage of, because when I say the wicked are always employed, but even though being good sometimes can come with its own consequences that are not the sweetest for us, it is still a very noble title. It's still a very good thing to do in a very hard world, in a very cruel world. There are so many people who deserve to find somebody who is as good as you. So even though you've experienced people being bad to you, there is somebody out there who is going to thank the God or the stars because they have met you. So the point is not to stop being good, but rather to be wiser as we are good. So we must be generous, but we must add a bit of wisdom to that generosity. So we can have more to even give to those who are deserving. Because one thing we forget about when it comes to being generous, that sometimes there are people who are deserving of our generosity, but maybe they're getting less of that generosity because we are spreading our resources towards people who are undeserving. So sometimes, let's say you have 10 million naira to share and 10 people out there, and you can give a million naira to each person. But if you are able to see that, okay, 5 of you are not deserving, it means that you can then take out that 5 and give 2 each to the remaining 5. So it's just a little bit of math here. Now, it is more sensitive than I have described, but at the end of the day, sometimes we are depleting our resources on people who are undeserving, and those who are truly deserving are not getting enough. And sometimes it's not just about material resources. Sometimes I'm talking about our time, okay, which is a very great resource that we can never get back. So that is my that's my first point on that. Now, my another point here is that I have also found in my experience that a great antidote to entitlement is gratitude. So one thing I've realized is that a lot of people who constantly are entitled to people's generosity are people who are truly ungrateful. Because if you see every act of kindness, every act of generosity as a gift, then you would know to be grateful for it, which now finds its way to stop you from being so entitled to it. Because when you're grateful for something, first of all, you recognize the effort. Second of all, you recognize how rare it is in the world, and therefore you can't take it for granted because you see it as special. So I found that a grateful heart is rarely entitled. So one time, a simple thank you, so much, and meaning that thank you, right? It reminds us that kindness is a gift, and it also reminds us to be kind as well. It helps us extend the generosity that we receive. So one of the great antidotes to entitlement, I believe, is gratitude. When you are truly grateful, when you truly recognize the effort, when you truly see that it is not really easy to be kind, when you know that when people give, most times they don't give from a place of abundance, they just give from a place of care, and you are grateful for it, then your sense of entitlement severely, it really goes down, because at the end of the day, you know that giving is a gift, kindness is a gift. Another thing I'd like to say is that sometimes we also accidentally use other people too. So, in as much as this conversation is all about being used and how we've been used and how the pain that comes with being used, before we point fingers, we must also remember that sometimes we use other people too. So this conversation is also for you to sit down and have a little interview with yourself. Are you the kind of person who only calls someone when you need something? Are you the kind of person who doesn't remember the person unless you need a favor? These are things to remember. Are you the kind of person, do you appreciate those who help you? When somebody truly extends their generosity to you, are you truly grateful for it? Are you the kind of person who only wants people when you need them? So this is a question for you. I can't answer that. So at the end of the day, it's dependent on you. So sit down with yourself and ask yourself these important questions, okay? Because this conversation isn't just about finding out how we're used and how we can stop people from using us. It's also how we can check ourselves. It's also about how we can become better friends, better partners, better colleagues, better bosses, better people in general. How can we be better family members? Okay. The easiest person, one thing I found out, the easiest person to blame is someone else. And the hardest person to the easiest person to blame is someone else. And it's very hard for us to accept responsibilities when we've erred. Sometimes we don't even know. And that's why I said that sometimes we accidentally use other people. Sometimes we don't know that what we're doing is using that person. We don't know that we are using this person. We just think, oh, it's just a regular Friday. But that's not how it truly works. The bigger message here is that this isn't really a conversation about being used. It is a conversation about being used, but it's more about value. You see, people are not tools. People are not stepping stones. And sometimes I think maybe because of our, capitalist nature as human beings, we love to use things until sometimes they're completely gone. But we must remember that when it comes to people, we cannot treat them like objects. We can't treat them. The best relationships are relationships that, first of all, go both ways, with mutual effort, support, mutual love and care. And when both people or people can feel seen, can feel loved, are needed, are helped, are supported, that's the most important thing. And how we treat the things that we value, or how we should learn to value things better. Okay, because maybe we liking something, enjoying something, it's not the same thing as valuing that thing. And that's one thing I found out. Enjoying something, sometimes you're enjoying something and you might think you love that thing. But again, love is more about what you're willing to do to keep that thing going in its best form. How you're willing to take care of something, not how much you're willing to enjoy it. And sometimes we do that with people. We claim to love people because these people are great people. Of course, you're going to love a great person. A great person is a person to be loved because they have so much to give. But how do you take care of that thing that you claim to value? If all you're doing is taking from a person that you value, then do you really value that person? Or do you just like what it is that they do for you? Are your values truly just selfish? These are things to ask ourselves when it comes to this conversation about being used. And like I said, sometimes we do it too. So it's an opportunity for us to really think. It's an opportunity for us to really sit with ourselves and evaluate our relationships. And you might find out that sometimes it's not even, it might be just that one person in your life. Sometimes it's not that you are a general user where you go around using everybody who comes across you. Sometimes it's just that one person who has shown you that maybe they don't have a very strong sense of boundaries, maybe. And we're just taking advantage of this person. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes because we don't do it to multiple people, we forget that sometimes we do it to just one person. Human beings, we're so complex, we are so distinct, we're so unique, we have very unique problems. So like I said, this conversation is not exactly black and white or black or white. It is very complex, and I think that's what makes it worth understanding when it comes to being used. Okay. All right, I have a few questions here that I've written down for you so you can sit down and maybe ask yourself a few questions later. Have you ever realized that someone only valued you for what you could do for them? Can people use others without intending to or meaning to? What is the difference between being supportive and being taken advantage of? Have you ever struggled to say no? And do boundaries strengthen relationships or do they weaken them? Right? So these are a few things I wanted to say, and I usually have a solution segment just to all the shows before we go. All right, so while we are talking about being used, the most important lesson here is that we must remain kind without being used. Okay, so number one, we must know our value. And we must know our value beyond what it is that we do. We don't deserve love just because of what we do. We deserve love because we are people. We must also learn to say no without guilt. Like I said, no only exposes the wrong people. The right people are not going to leave you because you affirmed your boundaries, because you said no. We must also learn to build relationships that are based on mutual care, and we must learn that healthy relationships will allow both people to thrive, both people to enjoy the relationship. When we meet people or when we are with people, we must watch out for patterns, not isolated events or incidents. Everyone needs help sometimes. Okay, but repeated one-sidedness, that deserves attention. Sometimes it's your turn to carry the heavy load, sometimes it's their turn. But once the pattern suggests that these things seem to last longer on one side, then perhaps it's time to have a conversation, most likely with yourself. You must also keep our kindness. We must be kind. We must stay kind, but we must also be wise. We must sprinkle a bit of wisdom into the pot of kindness, okay? And we must appreciate those who appreciate us. I don't think I need to say much about that. And of course, you must become the kind of person that you hope to find. I think that's the most important lesson here. You must be thoughtful, you must be grateful, you must check on people without needing anything. Okay, you must not live life going through hoops to manipulate people. Be the kind of person that people want to run to. If you are stuck in the forest and you are shouting for help, be the kind of person that you'd want to bump into. Are you the kind of person when someone bumps into you and they're in their time of need and you find a way to take advantage of them, or you find a way to harm them or to hurt them? So be the kind of person that you would love to meet if you were in a crisis. And on that note, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It's been a wonderful time with you, and I hope you've enjoyed today's show.